Hey, good morning everybody. This is John again from Volkswagen Planet. Today we are on part 13, which is going to be fuse 9. And for those who don't know, we are rewiring a 1972 VW Super Beetle. And this is an ongoing series that we are going to touch every single wire, start to finish. And hopefully, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, just comment below and maybe we can address that situation for you. And hopefully these videos are helpful to you because I've gotten, I won't say quite a few, but I'm getting consistent more and more comments that people are being helped out. So as long as I can help one person out, my job is done. And also, just to let you guys know, I want to say thank you again because this has been a huge, huge confidence builder in myself. I used to be really petrified of electrical, but, reaching out to you guys, making videos and getting the good positive feedback, it's really built my confidence quite a bit when it comes to electrical. So let's get back on to our series. Again, this is part 13. This is going to be fuse 9. And in this fuse, we're going to see a couple different things. And I'm glad it did change because this is where the diagrams really start to get confusing and frustrated if you're not familiar and understand what's going on. So we're going to start out looking at the fuse box. This would be if we were looking at it from the under the steering column inside the car. This is going to be the fuse 9 where that little identifier is right there. And we're going to count from the left, which is the driver's side, to the passenger side. So fuse 9 going that way. That's where the little identifier mark is right now. We do see it is a red fuse. This is the first time we've dealt with a red fuse. And the whites, if you guys don't remember, are the 8 amps, and the red fuses are 16 amp fuses. But that's all going to be in the bio below, so don't worry about having to memorize this stuff, along with the wire conversions like we do in all the videos. So let's see where this thing's going to take us and where this thing leads to. So we're going to deal with the wire going on the front side, which is going to be, if you go into the under the hood, we will be looking at it from, like, this section right here would be towards the front bumper. So this is going to be, this wire here, solid red wire, is going to be in front of the fuse. And this is going to take us, let's see where this is going to take us here. And we'll be able to, there it is. I'm just going to say we'll be able to catch the wire thickness here in just a second. So this is a 6mm wire. And when you convert this over to gauge, it is going to be a 10 gauge wire. So this is going to be one of the thickest wires that you're going to see on the Volkswagens. It's going to be a solid red wire. It's coming from fuse number 9 in the front. So that's what we know so far. So it's going to go, let's just see where this thing's going to end up taking us here. Okay, so we're going to put the little magnifying glass over here and we're going to go down. Now, I'm just taking you on this little journey because if you were to look at this and didn't know what you're looking at, this is really confusing and you think this thing would be, like wraps halfway around the car 3 or 4 times. But it's not really what happens in this. This is just, they have to put the wire on there so we, can trace it and find out where it goes. But you notice how this thing comes off the fuse box and it goes way over, what it would appear goes way over to the headlight area of the car, which would be the far right side. And now it looks like it's coming way back all over to the passenger side. I mean, the driver's side. But I'm going to show you where this wire ends up on the wiring diagram. And then I'm going to actually tell you what it actually is in real life. So this one's going down. So now that let's see if I can go over here. This section right here where the identifier is where it says W, that's your interior dome light. So that's just basically giving you an idea where we're at right now. So we went from fuse 9 all the way over to the passenger side, and now it's showing us come all the way back over. Now, even if you guys don't know that much about electricity, manufacturers aren't going to waste that much money when it comes to running wires through cars. So that's why I wanted to show you what the diagram is showing and what it actually goes through here. So we know that even though that there's no number right there, it's still 6.0. 6.0 is going to be the 10 gauge because it's still the same. Oh, there it is. See, 6.0. So this wire goes to, let me go down just a little bit here. And if you guys, on a 72, this is what's called, this where it says C1, this is a voltage regulator. Let's see if I can get the cursor move here. This right here is a voltage regulator. Now, on this particular make and model that we're dealing with right now, this is right behind the driver's seat, and it's attached onto the heater channel right below like where the ashtray would go on the rear quarter panel. And you're going to see this little metal box, and it's going to be inside, or you got to pick up the back seat, and it's going to be right there. So this wire tells us it goes into the B+ port, and that is labeled on, I know for a fact that the Bosch and the Hella is labeled that point, that B+. So it's going to stop there, and then it's going to have another, well, let's just deal with this first, okay? So we're going to go back this up real quick. So let's just go in reverse. We know it's a 10 gauge wire because we just did the conversion, and that'll be in the chart below. So let's follow this thing back. Let's see if I can get the cursor here. There you go. So we can follow each other here. So we're going to go back up. And the reason I want to explain this to you because this is kind of deceiving, where the paper is saying one thing, but this is not actually what happens in, I guess you would say, the reality part of this. Because you see how this is running all the way, zigzagging in and out of the car. You know, that's just not even, I mean, this wire right here would have to be probably close to 20 feet if we're looking at this way. Because right here would be the dashboard. So you're seeing it goes, it's just insane. I'm not going to confuse you guys anymore. So let's just go find out where this fuse goes. And I'm going to actually show you where and what the reality of this actually is going to be. Okay, so now we're back where we started from. Now, I'm going to tell you this is what actually this wire does. Okay, right now where this little magnifying glass is, we are in the trunk. So in reality, if you go over towards the wheel well and like where the master cylinder would be, remember where we picked up these wires here? These are the headlights, and I told you that there is two big trunk wires, one going to the headlights and one going to the that comes back into the car. Well, this is where all these wires are going to go. You see all these wires right here? All these wires here are going to be in that big chunk of wires that goes from inside the trunk down inside that right to the left-hand side of the fuse box. It's going to go right into the heater channel, right into the along your seat track, and it's going to come out right behind the back seat. Let's see if we can pick this wire up again. And like I said, it's going to go right behind the back seat. So it doesn't make all these curves is basically what I'm trying to tell you guys. It literally goes straight. It probably, maybe a foot that you're going to see inside the trunk. And it's going to go, if you have a factory harness, it's going to go in the, in that, mine's a gray casing. I'm pretty sure all the factories are gray. So if you follow the gray casing, now this whole wire is going to come out right at the, what's this called? The voltage regulator. Now, all these wires are going to come out in a whole big bunch. And if I zoom back out here, you're going to see there's a blue wire, there's red wires, and there's just a whole bunch of these other wires. They start going all over the place. So in this one, we just want to deal with the red solid wire. So that's going to come off the fuse, down over towards the side of the windshield. It's going to go in that big thick wire harness, going to come down inside the cabin, run all the way back to the heater channel, and it's going to come out and it's going to pop right into this voltage regulator. And this is basically a step in and a step out. So it's going to have a plug right here, and then it's going to there's going to be another wire that's going to go just like it came in. It's going to go right back out, and we're going to follow this wire to where we're going to finish this red wire right here. I know I didn't explain it probably the best, but I'm trying to explain it in where if you are confused, that by me speaking, hopefully it'll change your, you'll understand what I'm talking about when you put your physical hands on this, and you'll understand that, because this got me confused for probably about a half hour. So this is going to go right to the positive. So now if we follow this backwards, this is going to be a wire that's going to come off your battery terminal. This right here would be where your battery terminal hooks into or onto your post. If you're using a top post and factory wires and everything else, there's going to be a solid red wire, which will be this 10 gauge wire. And this 10 gauge wire would go right over to it'll be the right side of the voltage regulator, and it clips in right there on just a regular male spaded clip. So it's like a two-piece. You got one wire going from the fuse box into the voltage regulator, and then you got another wire coming from the voltage regulator out into, or which would be, now this is going to run parallel under the back seat, and it's going to run right over to the battery. Again, 6.0, which is 10 gauge. It may be different colors if it's been replaced, but this is just the gist of it and the how the OEM goes from there. Excuse me. Now, on some of these vehicles and some of these different wiring harnesses, this could be different. And what I'm going to explain to you is, okay, we know that right here would be the battery terminal. Now, like in my situation, on the factory one, my wire was different color. Mine was a red and white. So again, just make sure it's a 10 gauge, and color really doesn't make a difference, but this is just for illustration purposes only here. So now we've got the, I don't even know how big a 25 millimeter would be, but anyways, there's a big thick wire that comes off here. It's probably, well, I'll put it in the bio below what this 25 is. But anyways, this wire comes off the positive terminal, and it goes right into the starter. This is what ignites the starter and jumps the power off the battery to the starter right here. This right here, on mine, it's black, just like it's showing. But on my 1970, it was red. So depending on if it's been replaced again, yada, 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 and so on. So just keep that in mind. But make sure you don't take this lead here and put it on a different one of these lugs. So again, this is a black wire. It is color coded correctly. Hold on, guys. Sorry, didn't get you in the picture here, but let me scroll up a little bit. So let me back this up a little bit. So, whoops. So we're all on the same page here. Give me just a second, guys. Okay. So let me get us back into the... Okay, so what I want to say again is the red wire, this is coming from the voltage regulator. Now, depending on how your battery terminal is, this is how this is going to be. Now, it could be separate. It could be off the actual terminal itself. It just depends on how it was wired. So just keep that in mind. Again, there's going to be, in this situation, it's a black wire. It's going to go from the positive and it's going to go onto the starter. Now, what I do want to stress about how the starter sits, this is exactly how it's going to be on the way that's facing the car. So the positive terminal will go to the first lug towards the passenger side, which would be this one right here. And I know you guys can't see this, but I want to just explain to you because I didn't know, and it may not even make a difference, but on my situation, what it did was it put it on, there's a washer here, then it went the wire, and then there was a little thin flat washer, and then this was this screw or this bolt here. So it might not make a difference, but if you really wanted to do it, truly OEM, that's what mine looked like. And I can assure you, because this came off my 68 and it's all factory, it's all everything. So we're going to go back. Let's see here. Let's go back up here to the 10 gauge wire. Remember guys, this wire is under the seat. I hope you guys know that the battery is under the passenger side seat. So this is going to go from the positive side on the battery. It's going to run back into the voltage regulator. And if you look at the voltage regulator, all these are labeled B+, 61. These are labeled. So don't worry about having to put them in the wrong areas, but they are truly labeled. So we're going to go back over to this one because we know that it's not all one solid wire. So this wire is going to go from the voltage regulator, and I'm going to not try to confuse you guys too much, but this is reality where this wire goes. It's going to run straight up. Now this is where the interior light would be. So just to give you a kind of idea or a location where we're at on the wire, but instead of making this turn, it doesn't make this turn right there. This wire goes straight, and it's going to come out of the trunk, and that's where we're going to be able to hook this thing up. I've got to go up just a little bit more to catch the fuses here. And the wire will literally come out in this area. So we'll just count over 9. And that's where that wire goes. So that's where this wiring diagram kind of like misleads you, because in reality, the wire in the front does not come up and then take a right-hand turn. It actually comes off the fuse and makes a left-hand turn going towards the driver's door, which is going to be all those wiring, big chunks of wire like we see here. Let me scoot this over. All those wires like we dealt with in previous videos that run that big chunk of wires, that's where that red wire is going to be. It's not going to be fading off to the right. It's actually going to go to the left. So I knew about it, but like I said, if someone's completely confused and, is afraid to ask, don't be trying to chasing wires or thinking that your car doesn't have it, because your car does. So that's the first fuse, or that's the top wire on that. So we know, again, just to do a recap, let me readjust the camera here. We know that a red fuse is a 16 amp. So what we're going to do here is take a quick break, and we're going to finish up this fuse. So grab yourself a drink and we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back to, I guess we call this part 2 of this fuse. So just give you guys a update. This is to catch you guys up again. This is part 13, fuse 9. We already took care of the front wire, which is going to be a 10 gauge wire that's going from the front of the fuse to the voltage regulator. And we just discussed why the wiring diagram does not actually show a true picture of what the wire does. So we're going to go to the smaller wires coming off the back side of this fuse, which would be towards the windshield of the fuse. So if you're looking at the fuse box from the hood or from the front bumper looking in, we are going to look, these wires will be behind the fuse. So just to give you guys a recap, basically the red fuse we know is a 16 amp. And now we're going to deal with this first little leg coming off the back of the fuse. We're going to see where this thing goes. And as we're following it, we come across a 0.5, which is a 22 gauge wire. This is a solid red wire. So we're going to follow it up. And it's going to go into, this is going to be from a previous video. We dealt with this top wire here, this gray wire. And this was the buzzer. So when you open the door, you know, if everything's working properly on a Beetle, as soon as that interior dome light comes on, you're going to hear a little bit of a buzzing noise. And this is where the buzzer actually gets wired into. So the wire is going to go off. Here, let's just run this thing backwards now. So the wire is going to go to the buzzer. Now this is going to be on top of the fuse box. This is why I said the 1972 fuse box is a bi-level, meaning all the relays and buzzers and stuff like that are actually on top of the second level and not on the bottom where the wiring is. So we're going to follow this right back. And I want to say that was in the first or second video, that buzzer. So this is actually going to complete the circuit or make the actual buzzer work. So this was a quick and simple wire. So we're going to run this thing back into fuse 9, and that'll complete that that part of the fuse. Now, one thing I also want to focus on, if you notice on fuse 8, we're dealing with all these red wires. Now, on a factory wiring harness, they could be really close. So that's why I said you want to physically touch these wires, because this red and this red, they're really, really close. And that's why I started to do this series, because if you crisscross these wires, it may not hurt, you know, what you're doing right now. But if you ever go to change something, that's where it could, you know, have a high voltage versus something that is going to blow something out or possibly burn a car down. So this is why we're touching these wires wire by wire. But if you notice how you can get confused, there's a red wire. So the last 3 fuses have been nothing but red wires. So please be careful, take your time, and, you know, just take the couple extra minutes and make sure that you're actually physically touching these wires and making sure the wires are going where they say. Because even I got confused on the flasher and the light switch. So just make sure you guys keep these wires straight. Okay, so now we're going on the last wire of fuse 9. That one's going to come off the back just like the other one did. So we're going to follow where this thing goes. And this one is going to go opposite. Okay, wait. Let me back up here, because I didn't tell you where this thing is going to show up at. Okay, now this wire here is going to follow just like the one in the front did, and just like the next wire is going to do. These wires are all going to go and come off of that huge wiring harness over here. So again, you see all these wires are going to come off that main trunk line that's going to go inside the cab back to the voltage regulator to hook up the taillights and everything else. So this is where you really got to pay attention. Maybe get another set of hands and tug the wires just to make sure you're putting the correct wire on where it needs to go. Because I did run across that when I was doing the on-car videos. So back to this wire here. This wire, now you notice that these wires are, one's going to be an 18 gauge, one's going to be a 22 gauge, and one's going to be a 10 gauge. All these wires are different, so make sure you're using the proper wire, the correct wire going to the correct location. So this one is going to, let's see where this one's going to go. Oh, hold on, let's back up. It's a 0.5, which is a 22 gauge wire, so it's going to be really, really thin wire. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think this wire is going to go to the interior light. It's going to go down, go down, go down. Correct. This wire is going to go on the interior, the dome light. Now, the interior dome light is located, as soon as you open the door, it's right there on the top, on the roof rail. Now, if you have no light, no dome light, these wires could just be dangling. And that's like in the Super Beetle that I have, they are just dangling there. So this wire is just going to be hanging out the hole, or if not, this wire could be a little tricky to rewire if you had to do it. It's going to hook this wire up. Now, the wire itself is going to go run up along inside the roof, and it's going to come out the front, or it's going to come out right next to the rail in between the front and side of the car, like where the windshield meets the door. It's going to go down that little pillar, and it's going to come out. And it's a single wire. There's going to be two wires, and both wires are going to go right to the dome light. Now, this wire is a free wire, which means it doesn't go in any kind of casing, nothing like that, and it's just going to go right into the back of fuse 9. I think the other one's a brown wire, but we're not going to deal with that right now. But that wire goes from the fuse box, or from the back of fuse 9. It's going to run over back behind the speaker and the speedometer and everything else. So this is correct. It's going to go in a really, really tight, that really, really tight pillar between the windshield and the door frame there. It's going to go up in that little tiny skinny pillar there. It's going to go right here. We are literally up in the roof rail, the roof reinforcement rail, support rail, and there's going to be a hole in the driver's side, right above the driver's door, or inside the driver's door, and that's where this whole light assembly mounts. It is tricky to do. You're probably going to have to use like some fishing wire to wire that in. Maybe you can get a set of hands from your friend or your significant other, but that one's a little tricky wire. Thank God my wire was in good shape. I didn't have to mess with that one. But that's going to just about do it for this whole entire fuse here. So I want to say like, comment, subscribe. I know this video was a little rough. Is a little, not exactly as smooth as the others, but it did change quite a bit on the plug and play like it has been. It's still pretty simple. It's still really straightforward. There's really nothing complicated. So as always, guys, like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, or don't. It's not a problem. But I just want to say, as always, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless our great nation. And we'll catch you on the next video. The next video is going to be part 13, A as in apple. And that's going to be on car, which is going to be the exact same thing, but I'll show you what the situation is on the car versus actually showing you on the wiring diagram here. So take care, guys, and have a good day.